All right. So I'm going to call tonight's meeting to order. All rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Next is roll call. Oh. Roll call.
Sorry about that. I started recording before I opened the webinar, so I had to make sure we're actually recording the webinar. Okay. Councilmember McCardle?
Here.
Councilmember Murray?
Present.
Councilmember Ryan?
Here.
Councilmember Sonmore?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wall?
Here.
Mayor Matsumoto Wright?
Here.
And Councilmember Woodard asked to be excused.
Move to excuse Councilmember Woodard.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? He has been excused. Thank you. So next on our agenda is public comments. Do we have any public comments? Has anyone signed up for it?
No one signed up for public comments in person. If there's anyone in the online audience who would like to speak, please use the hand raise tool. Going once, going twice. That's the end of public comment.
Thank you. So Stefan, did you want to introduce some of the new people?
Sure, yes. Good evening, council members. For the record, my name is Stephen Clifton. I'm acting city manager. With us this evening, I'd like to introduce Phil Williams. Phil was director of public works for the city of Edmonds, Washington, and recently served in a similar capacity that I contacted him for. And he was recently with the city of Redmond, helping them also find a public works director and serving as an interim public works director. And so, with the departure of Eric LaFrance, I reached out to Phil, and I said, Phil, we could really use your help. Are you willing to come on board for a while? And so he is with us for several months. I've signed a contract, as has Phil, and I did talk with the city council before that I'll be looking for support from the city council to extend the amount necessary to, keep using Phil for his services. So I'll put something together with the city attorney and present that to the city council. As you know, I have sounding authority up to $40,000. This will cost more than that, so I'll be putting something together for the council.
All right. Thank you.
So my personal appreciation to Phil. And with us this evening also is Sandy Chase. And Sandy Chase was city clerk with the city of Edmonds. And with the departure of Virginia, I contacted Sandy and said, Sandy, would you be willing to come on board for several meetings and sit alongside Jennifer Yoki, who is our deputy city clerk. And as I mentioned during the last meeting, Sandy has extensive experience, years of experience as a city clerk. And so she's here this evening just to, help Jennifer with following the meeting and making sure that protocol is followed properly, et cetera, and be a second set of ears to, did you hear that? I mean, just to make sure they heard the same thing for the minutes and things like that. So that's all, Mayor.
All right. Thank you. Okay. So next on our agenda is the proclamation for the Hispanic Heritage Month, which is September 15th through October 15th. And Rohit, do you want to come up and introduce the speaker?
So here tonight is Alvaro, who will read the proclamation for the National Hispanic and Latino Heritage Month. This proclamation celebrates the Hispanic and Latino community and recognizes its contributions and influence in the United States history, culture, and achievements.
City of Mountlake Terrace Proclamation. National Hispanic and Latino Heritage Month, September 15th to October 15th. Whereas National Hispanic and Latino Heritage Month celebrates the Hispanic and Latino community and highlights its countless achievements, and whereas the observation began in 1968 as Hispanic Heritage Week under President Lyndon B. Johnson and was enacted into federal law on August 17, 1988, calling upon all the people of the United States to observe this time with ceremonies, activities, and programs. And whereas many Latino Americans trace their roots to the cultures of the indigenous peoples of the Americas, including the Arawaks, the Aztecs, the Incas, the Maya, and the Taínos, some trace their roots to the Spanish explorers or to the Africans who were brought as slaves to the New World. And whereas September 15th to October 15th is recognized as National Hispanic Heritage Month, which is a time to honor the invaluable ways Hispanics and Latinos contribute to our common goals, celebrate their diverse cultures, and to work toward a stronger, more inclusive, and more prosperous society for all. And whereas Hispanics and Latinos have and continue to serve as civil rights leaders, politicians, military service members, educators, first responders, science pioneers, and public servants for our country. And whereas Hispanic and Latino Heritage Month invites us to reflect on how great our tomorrow can be if we hold on to our resilience and hope, encourages us to reflect on all the contributions Hispanic and Latinos have made in the past and will continue to make in the future as a reminder that we are stronger together. And whereas Hispanic and Latinos have enhanced and shaped our national character with centuries-old traditions that reflect the multi-ethnic and multicultural customs of their communities, while adding their own distinct and dynamic perspective to the story of our country. Whereas Hispanic and Latino Americans represent a significant demographic of the Mountlake Terrace community, and we honor the invaluable ways they contribute to our great city. And now, therefore, Kyoko Matsumoto Wright, Mayor of the City of Mountlake Terrace, do hereby proclaim September 15th to October 15th, 2022 as National Hispanic and Latino Heritage Month.
Thank you very much. All right, so next is our consent agenda. And that, go ahead, Councilmember Ricardo.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the consent calendar, items A, B, C, and D.
Second?
So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next is the review of the 2022 second quarter financial report.
Good evening. I'm Janella Lewis, Finance Director. Today I'm presenting the second quarter financial report. Let's see, hold on. Uh-oh. There you go. Technical difficulties. Reviewing the city's finances on a regular basis and posting the review on the city's website highlights the city's council goals of protect and enhance the city's financial health and stability, develop and implement more effective communication and outreach with the community, and maintain appropriate and essential public services in a cost-effective manner. Tonight's review looks at several of the city's funds in terms of their performance during the year in the second quarter. The General Fund, Street Operating Fund, Recreation Fund, Enterprise Funds, and the Capital Funds. The General Fund revenues are used to pay for the following programs: the City Council, City Manager, Administrative Services, Community and Economic Development, Fire, contracted through South County Regional Fire, Municipal Court, both in-house and contracted through Snohomish County and other providers, Parks and Property Management, and Police, to name a few. The review of the revenues in the general fund are property tax general, EMS, sales tax, legislative backfill, utility taxes for gas, garbage, franchise, cable, telephone, electric, water, sewer, storm, admission tax, theater, gambling tax for bingo, pull tabs, and a mini casino, business licenses, building permits, engineering fees, planning, zoning, subdivision permits, animal license, liquor excise tax, liquor board profits, marijuana excise tax, criminal justice fund, grants, payments from other governments, PUD privilege tax, emergency medical service transport, solid waste administration fee, off-duty officers reimbursement, records charge, passports, other charges for services, fines, and forfeitures. Sales tax collections through the second quarter came in above the forecasted amount. Total sales tax collected through the second quarter was $2,315,822, which is 79% of the adopted budget. So it's pretty up there. Property tax revenue is on track with the 2022 adopted budget projections. Gambling tax revenues are in line with the budget projections, totaling $551,060, or 53% of the adopted budget. Prior to the pandemic, the gambling tax revenues for the second quarter averaged about 53% of the budget. This is a bounce back from pre-pandemic levels. Development services fees totaled $1,032,550, or 55% of the adopted budget. Fines and forfeitures were 14% of the adopted budget. And this is your operating revenues through the second quarter for the different years. You can see it's just gone up. The expenditures have also gone up. At the end of the second quarter, operating revenues for 2022 totaled 56% of the budget, and operating expenditures totaled 56% of the budget also. Operating revenue exceeded operating expenditures by $444,407. The ending fund balance at the end of the second quarter of 2022 totaled $11,707,098. The Street Operations Fund covers the maintenance of the city's public rights-of-way, more than 60 miles of city streets, 500 city-owned streetlights, 15 signalized intersections, 3,300 signs, 70 miles of sidewalk, numerous crosswalks and other pavement markings, vegetation maintenance for more than 20 miles of planting strips and brush control along unimproved right-of-ways. The street fund operating revenues are at 43% of the 2022 budget as of the end of the second quarter. The street operating fund expenditures were 35% of the total 2022 budget at the end of the second quarter. The general fund transferred $250,000 or 50% of the 2022 operating transfers budget to the street fund during the second quarter. The recreation fund covers the revenues and expenditures of the city's recreation services, including aquatics, athletics, fitness, youth, and general recreation programs. Overall, the recreation fund has covered 69% of its costs through the second quarter. The recreation fund, the youth program revenues were at 7% of the adopted budget. Aquatics revenues totaled $272,522, or 25% of the adopted budget. The enterprise funds, these are funds with revenues from user rates and fees. Like a business enterprise, these funds cover their own costs without help from outside funds. By and large, under Washington law, these revenues cannot be used to subsidize programs other than those related to the utility. The city operates 3 utilities: stormwater, sewer, and water. Rates in each utility are made up of 3 components. The first portion covers maintaining and operations. The second portion pays debt on funds previously borrowed to make repairs and upgrades. And the last portion of rate goes towards replacing and upgrading the system. The stormwater utility fund covers the cost of maintaining the natural and developed storm and surface water conveyance systems. These actions come about under regulatory requirements through the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System, Phase 2 permit issued by the Washington State Department of Ecology. Work includes public education and outreach, inspection of commercial and multifamily housing sites for proper operation and maintenance of stormwater treatment and control facilities, identification of illicit discharges to the stormwater system, spill cleanup response for accidental discharges, water quality monitoring for Lake Ballinger. Stormwater operating revenues totaled $2,090,740, or 47% of the adopted 22 budget through the end of the second quarter. Stormwater operating expenses, including debt service, totaled 36% of the adopted 22 budget at the end of the second quarter. Operating revenues exceeded operating expenses by $902,234. These funds will be used to fund future stormwater capital projects and debt service. The ending fund balance of $4,784,841 includes $166,710 in operating reserves, $557,125 reserved for debt service, and $4,061,006 designated reserve for capital projects. And here is the stormwater revenues to expenditures from 2018 to 2022, the second quarter. The sewer utility fund covers the expense of providing sanitary sewer service to the community: 66 miles of mains, 30 miles of laterals, 4 lift stations, 1,400 manholes. The majority of sewer treatment services are provided by the wastewater treatment plant in Edmonds, of which Mountlake Terrace is part owner. Smaller amounts of wastewater flows to King County Metro via Briar and Shoreline. The sewer utility fund is also the funding source for capital improvements to the city's wastewater collection system and for the city's share of the costs of capital improvements to the wastewater treatment plant. Revenues for sewer service are at 45% of the adopted 22 budget as of the end of the second quarter. The expenditures total 38% of the adopted 22 budget at the end of the second quarter. And operating revenues exceeded operating expenses by $860,465. The funds will be used to fund future stormwater capital projects and debt service. And there's the sewer utility fund from 2018 to 2022 for up to the second quarter for each year. The water utility fund covers the expense of providing potable water to the community: 90 miles of water mains, 3 water reservoirs, 900 hydrants, 27 system valves, 6,000 service connections, cross-connection and backflow prevention program, sampling of the water to ensure all standards are met, and capital improvements and replacements. Total water operating revenues are 41% of the adopted 22 budget at the end of the second quarter. Total water operating expenses are at 34% of the adopted 22 budget at the end of the second quarter. Operating revenues exceeded operating expenses by $966,487. These funds will also be used to fund future water capital projects and debt service payments. The ending fund balance of $6,536,251. And the water utility fund operating revenues and expenditures for the second quarter from 18 to 22. Real estate excise tax revenues through the second quarter. They had a big spike in 2019 and getting back up there to 2022. The street construction fund covers projects to provide, preserve, and improve street, pedestrian, bicycle, and traffic control facilities, a portion of the city's allocation of the motor vehicle fuel tax, traffic impact fees, interest that accrues on funds in the account, state and federal grants and appropriations, loan proceeds, interagency financial participation, real estate excise tax, or REIT, TVD license fees, which is a restricted revenue. Because so much of these funds are restricted by law to be used only for street construction and not street maintenance, they are kept in a fund that is separate from the street operations maintenance fund. The capital projects supported by the fund are those identified in the Transportation Capital Facilities and Improvement Program, TCFIP, and the Transportation Improvement Program, TIP. Street pavement overlays, seal coats, sidewalk and sidewalk ramp construction, bicycle route signing and striping, street reconstruction, traffic control system upgrades. In conclusion, the city's second quarter finances highlight three things. The majority of the city programs remain on target financially in providing cost-effective services, programs, and projects identified by the Mountlake Terrace community. The City Council has adhered to a policy of ensuring these programs and projects will be able to be maintained for years to come by living within our financial means. The financial impacts of the pandemic are starting to smooth out, but we'll continue to monitor and update Council as necessary. Any questions?
Do I see any questions? Wow. You did a great job.
Oh, I got it.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Ricardo.
Just a couple comments. I mean, based on your report, first of all, thank you for that. It's good to see that the city is still, maintaining and kind of somewhat holding our position.
Yeah.
It's nice to see that the rec pavilion is, even though it's way behind of our projection of 83% cost recovery, it's slowly coming up from where it has been. So that's a takeaway. The other thing that I would like to get a report on, and maybe this is something from our city manager and interim public work director, is we've gotten a lot of pushback on our rate increases for our sewer and water utilities. And, people look at this and they'll see the graph where our revenues are way exceeding our expenditures. So maybe just the update on some of the upcoming projects that are going to be funded by that extra revenue that's sitting in there, just to kind of give the residents a sense of this is why we increased and what we're doing with your monies.
Okay.
Like you said, that's probably beyond your purview. So at some point, just a quick little update would be great.
Okay.
Other than that, thank
I
you.
made a note on that. I'm not texting anybody.
Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to say welcome aboard. It's
Oh,
great
thank
to
you.
have you. We're all thrilled that you're with us. We're excited because we understand your training under Sonia Springer, who
Yes.
we all are very fond of and appreciate all the work that she did and for our city for so many years, and loved her very much. And so we're excited that you're on board to carry that forward. So,
Yeah, me
thank you.
too. I'm excited. All the things that I saw looked very familiar from what I've learned over the years. Yeah.
Okay. Wow, I think this was your first report.
Second.
Se-
The
second.
first one was kind of a fly by the seat of my pants thing.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And I guess we don't have any more questions? All right. Did a great job. Next is the review of the 6-year financial forecast, and that's
Jennifer, you should be able to click on slideshow at the top and then click on from the beginning. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. So, hi again. I will be presenting the projected 22 financial report. Now, there were many different tabs in this spreadsheet for the projections, and I only did a portion of them. General fund was, I figured, the most important one, so I did that one in the up to the fleet funds. So this is the presentation that you may have seen before. This might look familiar to you. The charts have just changed. So this is the general fund revenues from 2010 to 2022. 2022 is projected. Those are, so you can see in 2010 it was 14 million, and in 2022 it's 19. The general fund revenues by type, and you can see that it is color coded. This is again from 2010 to 2022, and the 2022 is projected. So you can see that the biggest driver looks like it is a property tax and sales tax. And again, these are the general fund revenues with no grants or inter-fund reimbursements in the presentation. The sales tax revenues from 2010 to the projected 2022, I estimated about 2%, I think is what I did for 2022 projection increase. You can see what it was in 2010, just keeps going up. And property tax revenues from 2010 to projected 2022. And then the expenditures, you can see those have gone up, and then you have 2009 to 2021 actuals. That is what that is. And I just used the same presentation, so that's why you don't see the projected 2022 in there. I could put that in there if you would like. The general fund expenses from 2009 to 2021 by department. So you have city council, police, park service, city manager, fire, debt, administrative services, which consists of finance, IT, and HR. Community and Economic Development, Municipal Court and Jail Services, Property Management, and the transfers to Street Operations and Recreation Fund. The general fund revenues versus the expenditures for 2009 to 2021 actuals. So you can see revenues spiked in 2021 over expenditures. 2020, it looks like it, because of the pandemic, kind of evened out. Expenditures were a little bit over. And that's the end of the slideshow. Now, I didn't know if you wanted me to share the spreadsheet.
Does anyone want to see the spreadsheet? Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't know that you need to share it on the screen, but I would love to get a copy of the spreadsheet at some point. And just jumping back on, and I'm not sure that you would know the answer to this, and maybe Stefan can help. On the property tax revenues, there was a decrease, I think, from, was it 2019 to 2020, or 2020 to 21? But there was a decrease, and I'm thinking that was because we had a property tax, levy or bond that had expired. Is that correct, or was there some other reason that caused the decrease in the property tax revenues? Anybody recall?
I do not have the answer to that, but we can look that up for you
that'd
and
be
get
great.
back to the council.
Thank
Yes.
you. And then, I think, great presentation. Thank you for the report. I would be interested in a copy of the spreadsheet and getting a copy of the spreadsheet, as well as a copy of the, there it is, 2020 to 2021 was a slight decrease. I'm thinking that was an expiration of a bond or a levy, but wasn't quite sure. Anyway, and then also for the 6-year financial forecast, I'd be interested in getting a copy of the next 6 years. What are we forecasting for the next 6 years? I know we're going to be getting that in looking at the budget coming up here. So whenever you're ready.
Yes, and that is part of that presentation.
Yeah.
So it is 2022 to 2027 is what that presentation, and then for the budget, I'll be doing one for 2023 to 2028.
Great.
Yeah,
Yeah. Just look forward to get that when you have a chance.
yeah,
Thank you.
working on it.
Okay, I don't see any other hands going up for questions. So we can move on to the next item, which is the review of the financial policies.
Close this one. That is a PDF. Okay, this one is a PDF. So the review of the financial policies. And again, I took this from the prior year when you guys reviewed it, almost exactly to the year. I think it was like by 3 days or something. The purpose of the financial policies is to ensure core services are maintained for the community when funds are short, to ensure tax dollars are being used legally, openly, efficiently, and effectively, and to ensure funds are used in a manner that achieves the community vision outlined in the council's goals. And I didn't change anything or update anything on the financial policies. It's just as is. And this is just to review what changes we could possibly want in order to adapt to these times. Because I think these were, as you'll see, these were done in 2017 or 2018, I think. What financial policies do? They ensure the city maintains a financial base to sustain a consistent level of municipal services, ensure the city is able to withstand local and regional economic variations, direct attention to the total financial picture of the city rather than single issue areas, adjust to changes in the service requirements of the community, maintain a good credit rating in the financial community, which assures taxpayers and ratepayers that city government is well managed financially and is in sound fiscal condition. Setting priorities and practices for city services. Mountlake Terrace has limited revenue sources. Setting service priorities can help to ensure that the most important services are maintained if funds become short. The city's financial policies call for the following priorities in order of importance, together with the council's goals and objectives. Public life, health and safety, police, fire, emergency, medical services, building inspections and traffic control, water, sewer, and storm drainage service, and infrastructure maintenance. Legal mandates, accounting, auditing, financial reporting, land use planning. City facilities and property, maintenance of parkland, buildings, streets, rights-of-way, utility infrastructure, and equipment. And your goals may have changed since this was presented last time. City practices to ensure the community's dollars are being used efficiently and effectively. The city practices the following: include all potential stakeholders in evaluating proposed alternate services, form partnerships with other local governments for the provision of services to achieve economies of scale. Examples include contracting for jail services and partnering on home detention methods. Review partnerships with local governments on a biennial basis during the preparation of the biennial budget to evaluate impact and benefits. Explore the privatization of services on a biennial basis during the preparation of the biennial budget. Citizen involvement will be encouraged in the budget decision-making process to receive input from the Mountlake Terrace community on the level of services desired. Fund balances. It's normal, in fact necessary, for a city to have money left over at the end of the year. The money left over is known as the fund balance, and it is the result of projects or purchases costing less than expected, or revenues coming in more than anticipated. Either way, a fund balance is good news. However, the fund balance shouldn't be too high. This is because if the city is ending each year with too much money, it means the city is collecting more money from taxpayers on an annual basis than it needs to deliver services. A policy on fund balances helps to ensure that the city maintains an adequate balance to cover unanticipated expenses while at the same time avoiding the accumulation of funds for no reason. The city will not use the general fund balance to finance recurring operating expenditures. Instead, the fund balance will be placed into an account for one-time projects and programs. This means that an average annual general fund revenues will equal annual general fund operating expenditures. General fund revenues will be used for general government, street, and recreation programs only. General fund revenues will not be used to subsidize utility operations, which will be self-supporting through user rates. The city will maintain a minimum general fund balance equal to 5% of general fund expenditures. Enterprise funds will be operated in a manner that maintains a minimum ending fund balance that is not be less than 15% of total operating appropriations. To assure ratepayers that utility funds are being readily used for the maintenance of the system, the maximum ending fund balance will not exceed 25% of total fund appropriations. Enterprise funds will be self-supporting through user rates and fees. Reserves. Reserve funds enable the city to deal with unforeseen emergencies, contingencies, changes in economic conditions, and to set aside small amounts over time to pay for large capital expenses in future years, reserves. A strategic reserve fund is used to offset revenue fluctuations from catastrophic events. The strategic reserve fund will be budgeted in an amount equal to 5% of the prior year's operating expenses. An accumulated leave reserve account is maintained to cover the financial liability of employee accrued leave, which would be paid at the employee's separation from the city. A reserve of 5% will be maintained in the general fund. A contingency reserve of 2% will be maintained in the general fund. The city will maintain a reserve for the replacement of fleet vehicles and similar equipment. For each utility, an operating reserve will be maintained in the amount equivalent to 15% of total annual operations and maintenance expenses. Charges and fees for services. Where direct beneficiaries of a city program or services can be identified, fees will be established to recover the costs of that service or program. Where a service provides some benefit to the larger community and not just an individual, the city may choose to subsidize either whole or in part such service. Rental fees will comparable to commercial rates and recover full costs of use of the property or facility. As a whole, fees charged for development services, building, engineering, and land use will recover at least 85% of the cost of the program. As a whole, recreation programs will recover at least 85% of the overall recreation budget. City residents who own recreation facilities and support programs through general taxes will pay less for programs than non-residents. Fees for services will be reviewed as part of the biennial budget to ensure that fees are equitable and cover the cost of service. Utility rates will be reviewed as part of the biennial budget. A detailed rate study will be conducted at least every 5 years to ensure utility revenue is meeting and not exceeding need and to ensure rates remain within legal requirements. Cash management and investments. Funds will be invested in only those investments permitted by federal and state law relating to public funds. All of the city's funds will be invested with the following objectives listed in the order of priority. Safety. The city will seek to avoid loss through the sale and investment while selling off underperforming investments. Liquidity. The city's investment portfolio will remain sufficiently liquid to meet all cash requirements that may be reasonably anticipated. Yield. The city's investments will be designed with the objective of maximizing a fair rate of return consistent with the safety and liquidity noted above. Capital projects and purchases. Mountlake Terrace is accountable for a number of buildings, parks, roads, water, sewer, storm lines, equipment, and other capital items. The maintenance and improvement of these facilities are a primary responsibility of the city. Planning and implementing sound capital improvement policies and programs today will help the city avoid emergencies and major costs in the future. A capital improvement program, CIP, will be maintained and updated prior to each budget. The CIP will list capital items to be pursued over the next 6 years, as well as the funding source for each item. Will be prepared and updated biennially. The CIP will be consistent with the comprehensive plan covering transportation, water, sewer, stormwater, parks, and recreation. Budgeting and forecasting, which we're in the process of doing right now. As required by state law, the City Council will adopt a balanced budget. To allow for public involvement, the budget process will be scheduled over at least a 4-month period. The vision, goals, and strategic plan of the City Council, as well as the comprehensive plan, will serve as the framework for the budget proposed by the City Manager to the City Council. One-time revenues will be used for one-time expenditures only. The City Manager will present to the City Council quarterly financial reports identifying trends in revenues and expenditures for each of the city's operating funds. The city will maintain a 6-year financial forecast. The end. And if you want to see the financial policies, those were attached, I think. Would you like to review them?
Or the memo.
Okay. Any questions?
Are there any questions? Oh. For Councilmember Ricardo and then Murray.
Again, thank you for bringing this in front of us. Did you mention at the beginning that the last time we kind of looked at updating or changing this was 2017?
I think so. Let me look. It's in the memo.
2018.
2018. Okay. All right, so it's not a bad idea to take another look at these, and at
Yeah.
some point, I don't know when council might want to have a conversation about these, if we do it all, or just, that's one question. The second is, when is the next budget cycle beginning, as far as reviewing and a timeline, and, because we mentioned the 4-month period, so I'm just curious.
Yeah, we're, I would say, currently behind the typical budget processing process, simply because we have a finance director that went to a different city, and then Janella recently came on. So we are playing catch-up. I mentioned that, actually, I think during the last meeting to the city council. So, you know, we're trying to get this moving as quickly as we can, but at least for now, we're a bit behind.
Yes, I think it's on the schedule for,
The presentation, I believe, is in October.
yeah, October. We're in the process of Friday departments are,
Yeah. City departments are
Including-
currently putting their requests together and their department budgets together, and then presenting those to the finance director. And then eventually we will, I will be meeting with the department directors and the finance director and talking about any program request or project request. And then eventually we'll be putting together the presentation for the city council. That should take place in October.
With an adoption target date of in December, is that?
yes.
Yes,
It has to be
Has to
adopted by
be.
December
Okay.
31st by law.
all right,
Yes.
so, I mean,
Yeah, thank you.
We'll get there.
we'll
We
get
will
there,
do it.
yeah.
We'll do it.
All right. Yeah, we will.
Yeah, we
So if we
currently
look-
tentatively have the department budget presentations October 26th and October 27th.
Okay, yeah. So if we looked, I mean, even if we looked at today as, or last workshop as the introduction, September, you got October, November, that's a 4-month kind of period, but they might not have the numbers, but at least they understand the process, so. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Councilmember Murray.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councilmember McCardle. I was going to say, it's always nice when I wait and defer, and then you ask the question that I was going to ask. I was just really going to ask around kind of our process around updating these. I do think that there's probably some areas to try to ensure that they are reflecting our new vision that we put together as a council, and so would love to talk about what that looks like, and so that we can do that. And Janella, welcome. I don't think I've had a chance to officially say that yet, so welcome. Really excited to have you here, and thank you for all of the hard work getting us moving on these things, and excited to continue the budget process for the first time for myself, going through this process together.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I'm excited to be working here.
All right. I guess there are no more questions. So we can move on to the next item. Thank you so much. All right, so next is the council liaison reports. And I guess I'll just start, I can start one or the other end. We'll start with Councilmember Murray, and then we'll move this way.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to try to get these right. My calendar wouldn't pull up. I think it was just the August 19th special meeting, and then Virginia's going away party on the 31st, and then our special meeting on the 1st. But I think those dates are approximately right. So off the top of my head, that's what I'm going with tonight.
We had a first. Well, no, we had several. I don't know. Councilmember Ryan?
Thank you, Mayor. On August 16th, Tuesday, attended the Arts Commission meeting where they're working on jurying in artwork for the Arts of the Terrace show, which will be starting September 24th, Saturday, and go 1 week. On the 18th, that was our city manager get together, talk about the evaluation system and what we all talked about as a group. And then on the 31st was our goodbye at City Hall here for our city clerk, Virginia. And then September 1st was our workshop. And that's the end of my report. Thanks.
Okay, Councilmember Ricardo.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended, I don't remember the dates, but the city manager evaluation process with our consultant, and then the special meeting the next day, and then it's been a quiet end to August, and so I'm looking forward to starting up in September, where next week I'll be at the RPAC meeting. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you. Councilmember Soundmore?
Thank That's all I have to report.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Okay, yikes. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Since I was helping support the world's tourism economy, I missed my last meeting, and therefore I believe I have to go back to July for a full update. I will spare you most of it because most of it's not entirely laid out here, but let's see, on August 9th, County, sorry, July 27th, had the Snohomish County Tomorrow Steering Committee. On July 28th, I had the PSRC Executive Board meeting. Again, spare you from the details. We had the tour to Terrace. We had National Night Out August 2nd. Then Snohomish County County Council Presidents on August 9th. Then Puget Sound Regional Council's Growth Board meeting on September 1st, where we covered Vision 2050 implementation status and trends, planning for 1.5 million more people, which is roughly 50,000 people per year. We had looked at the comp plan certification and the housing checklist, and also had a passport to 2044 workshops. There'll be online webinars, element guides available, resources for community profiles, et cetera, that are available through PSRC. There will be valuable resources as in our comp plan update process. Then Virginia's going away party, August 31st. We council work study session on the 1st, and tonight, prior to this meeting, we had our city manager meeting with the mayor and I. I believe that concludes my abbreviated report.
Thank you. Okay, so for my report, I only need to go back to August 24th. I attended the AHA meeting, and on the 25th and the 26th, I attended a Board of Health retreat, and I just wanted to show you that what we covered in 2 days, this thick. Oh my gosh. And we covered all of this in 2 days at the Board of Health retreat, and we got a lot accomplished. And then on the 31st, I attended a special Board of Health Executive Committee. And then I also was here for Virginia's going away. And on the 1st, I attended a community transit meeting. And on the 2nd, I attended the Seashore Transportation Forum. And that's the end of my report. And so next is our city manager report.
Okay, good evening, Mayor. Once again, Stephen Clifton. WCIA sends out an annual liability exposure questionnaire, and the questions, the number of questions are extensive, and it relates to operations of the city, miles of roadway, miles of sidewalk. Do you own a library? Do you own a senior center? How many vehicles do you have? Vans, police operations, et cetera. It's very extensive. So I scheduled a meeting with city staff, and we collectively responded to all of those questions, updated the numbers. It also, they asked questions related to finances as well. And so we were able to meet the August 31st deadline and submit that to WCIA. So I just want to thank all of our staff who helped me put that or answer all those questions and submit those to WCIA. So that concludes my update.
Thank you. Okay, next on our agenda is new business. Does anyone have any new business? Okay, we're going to make it very, very simple for everybody tonight. Next on my agenda is adjournment, and we get to go home in less than an hour. We're adjourned.